Are you vulnerable or are you doing too much? Like when you start to talk, are people eager to hear what you have to say because they know that you're, giving value and deepening the relationship, or are they suddenly uncomfortable because you are just saying things? You're just saying things and they really don't even want to know this information. So yeah, on this video we will be dissecting the difference between vulnerability and oversharing and highlighting tips that we can use to recognize if we're actually vulnerable people or if we just have an oversharing problem. So yeah, let's get into it. First thing that we're going to consider as how to know if we are being vulnerable or if we've become oversharers is the intention, the intentionality behind the information that you're trying to share. Why is it important that they know this thing about you? What is the importance of this piece of information to this person? So if you're being vulnerable, it is a well thought out process. You are conscious about every bit of information and personal detail or anything that it is that you're trying to share. It's well thought out. You're not just blurting it out. Whereas oversharing often stems from a sort of lack of self-awareness. You're not really conversant or comfortable with yourself, so you don't really know what it is that you should keep to yourself, and you think that it's okay to tell other people. So the next time you are faced with a situation where you want to be vulnerable but you're not quite sure if this is oversharing, just ask yourself, what is the intention behind me passing across this bit of information? Why is it important for me to tell them this thing? Why do they need to know it? And that'd be a great first step to stop yourself if you need to, with regards to information that you are about to willingly give up to a total stranger or not. The next thing is, what depth of connection are you trying to form with this person and why? So if you're being vulnerable, sharing these details of your life, you're opening up the door to the inside of yourself, to this person that you're welcoming in with this information that you're sharing, and it deepens your connection, it deepens your bond. Whereas with oversharing, you end up making people feel uncomfortable. You're giving them way too much detail. Most times they don't even want to know and they don't care that much. But now you've told them, so it's awkward. So just ask yourself, who is this person? What is the level of connection that we have? Is this something I'm looking to deepen? Why am I comfortable having this person know this information about me? Will it strengthen our relationship? Will it make them open up to me more? Will it make us understand each other better, grow in this relationship that we have? And is that something I'm interested in? Or am I just giving a random person information that they really don't need to know about me? So yeah, ask yourself that the next time you are about to give off some information about yourself. The next one that you want to consider is relevance. Why is this piece of information relevant to the conversation? When you're gisting somebody something and you start to pivot and divert and go off track, and now you're telling them the color of the paint and the exact model of car that you drove there and what so and so was wearing and the exact time you left the house. All these details, what is the relevance of the details to the conversation? What is the context that it adds? And if it's not adding any context, you're already oversharing. They don't need to know all that. They don't need to know all that. And when you find yourself talking so much and you're just chatting, you're trying to make the gist sweet, that's how you end up giving up information that you really shouldn't be giving people. So every time you're about to speak or relay a story or share something, ask yourself, how is this relevant to the conversation? Does this add context to the conversation? What is the relevance basically, and why do we need to know this? And if you find that it's not relevant, zip. They don't need to know. They don't need to know. Another great thing to consider when sharing information or being open with people that would help you know if you're oversharing or if you're just being vulnerable is boundaries. Are you taking boundaries into account? Now, not just your personal boundaries, which again is very important because if you don't have boundaries, you're very likely to be oversharing. But if you've set boundaries, then it's easy to measure what it is that you're trying to share with this person and your boundaries. Is this something that I want them to know? Could they cross my boundaries by knowing this information? Am I crossing my boundaries by sharing this information? Am I doing a disservice to myself? Then also considering the boundaries of other people. This information you're giving them, is it just going to make them feel uncomfortable? Like, do they have an existing boundary around the subject that you're talking about? And how does this particular detail that you're about to share with them, play around that boundary? Are you crossing a line? Is it inappropriate? Little things like that. Just consider the relevance and the boundaries in place in this relationship and dynamic before you volunteer certain information to people. You don't want to have the people that you're speaking with feeling trapped in the conversation and feeling the burden of having some certain information that they really would rather go the rest of their lives without ever finding out. So yeah, think about that. This one is very similar to the first one that we spoke about, which was intentionality. Vulnerability serves a purpose. In the bigger picture, in the grand scheme of things, there's a purpose from your vulnerability. So this information you're sharing, what is the purpose of it? So this goes beyond the intention behind it and the purpose of it. So the intention is more so why you're choosing to share it, and the purpose is more so what does this information that I'm sharing aim to achieve? What is the purpose of it? With oversharing, it lacks a clear purpose. You're not quite sure why you're telling them. You're not quite sure how this information benefits them. You're just talking, you're just talking for the sake of talking. So what is the purpose? And sometimes, again, it might not be that you're just talking for the sake of talking, but the purpose that the information is supposed to serve is not, it's not beneficial to you, and it's also, how do I say this? Like, it doesn't balance out or weigh out to the larger picture, and in the grand scheme of things, you can do without sharing this piece of information. So ask yourself again, what is the purpose of this interaction? Why am I telling them this? Why am I showing them this picture? Why do they need to see this chat? Why do they need to see this conversation? Why do they need to come to my house? Why do they, just all those little venture, like volunteering of your life and yourself to people, what is the purpose of it? And if you find that it's purposeless, then cut it out. It's not necessary. You don't have to share that. Next, and one of the most important things I think, is reciprocity. These people that you're telling everything to, you're telling them everything about your life, you're sharing all your information with them, you're an open book. Your life is an open book. How much of their lives do you know? How much of their lives do you know? Just sit down for a moment and ask yourself, these people that know everything about me, what do I really know about them? And many times you'll find that you know just the basics, maybe you know that their favorite color is yellow and a bit of their likes and dislikes, but when it comes to the thick of it, you don't know their pain points, you don't know their trauma, you don't know what makes them tick, you don't know what makes them think, you don't know what they hate, you don't know what they love, you don't know what makes them cry, you've probably never seen them cry, you don't know anything that's important to them and is what makes them who they are. But you, on the other hand, you've told them everything about yourself. So if there's no reciprocity in conversations with these people and you've noticed that it's a bit one-sided, chances are you've been oversharing. And all the things you've been telling them, they're just there like, well, that's awkward. Why would she tell me that? I would never tell her that. Just check it. If it's not reciprocal, stop. You've overshared. It's okay. You can stop now. The next thing is timing. Sometimes it's not so much that the information you're passing across shouldn't be passed across, but it's also about when you're passing across that information. It might be wrong timing, it might be too early, it might be too late. Like, maybe this information would have been relevant to them in the moment, but like so much time has passed and it has lost context and they really don't need to know at this moment. Or it happened so far in the past that it does not add any relevant context to the dynamic of the relationship as it stands today. So check again, read the room. Read the room. Who all is there? What all are they talking about? Is this the right time to mention this? You know, just read the room and make sure that you're passing relevant information at the right time so that you're not doing too much. You don't want to be doing too much. This one is the like after everything is said and done, it all boils down to this: self-awareness. Self-awareness. Vulnerability requires self-awareness. You need to know yourself, understand yourself, you know, and be respectful of your process and your emotions. You have to understand your emotions, know your feelings, and all of that to be able to show up vulnerably and be doing it right, as opposed to just oversharing. If you have no self-awareness at all, then you're very likely to be oversharing because you don't even have a concept of what you need to keep to yourself and what you should keep close. And if you don't have that concept for yourself, it is damn near impossible for you to have that concept for another person and consider how the information you're sharing with this person is impacting them. Okay, so let's start by developing some self-awareness. Ask yourself, what are my values? What is important to me? What do I care about? What makes me think? What makes me think? What is my why? Why do I do the things I do? Why are certain things important to me and not the others? All those things. Get to know yourself. When you understand yourself, understand your thoughts, understand your emotions, it is so much easier for you to be vulnerable without crossing the line of oversharing. Another important one is respecting privacy. Not just your privacy, but the privacy of other people. And again, the thing about context, knowing what parts of a story are yours to tell, because our lives are so intertwined. So something might have happened to you, but there's so many other people in the picture that it's not just your story to tell, and there's parts of it that really you have no business saying. So respecting privacy is a big one when it comes to the difference between vulnerability and oversharing. If you're vulnerable, but you'll have respect for privacy. You'll know, what parts of the story are yours to tell and what parts are not. Even those that are yours to tell, what parts are breaching your privacy, what parts are too much. And that's how you would make sure you're staying vulnerable but not oversharing. But if you have no respect for privacy, then anything goes. And now you're telling people that don't know other people very intimate details about their lives that they have no business knowing. And you're making yourself unsafe, you're making other people unsafe, not just like physically unsafe and like danger that is very present, but emotionally, you're opening people up to just things and people that really have no business knowing and having all this information about them. The 10th one, and I think a very good way to round it up, is the outcome. So if you're looking at vulnerability and oversharing in retrospect, looking at the outcome of the interaction is a good way to know if you were just vulnerable or if you've gone ahead to overshare. What is the outcome? After I've shared all this information, what came from it? With vulnerability, you're strengthening connections, you're building community, you're deepening bonds and all of that stuff. But with oversharing, you'll find that, there's now misunderstandings, a lot of contexts have changed, there's disagreements, arguments, bad things. Only bad things can come from oversharing. But the outcome of vulnerability is always a good one because, again, vulnerability is a great thing. It's a strength. It's a good trait to have, the ability to be vulnerable, and not a lot of people have it. And I can understand for people that, are passionate about being open and building community and forging strong relationships. I can understand your desire and want to be vulnerable and show up in that way. But it is also important to make sure that you're not just oversharing. And again, the thing about reciprocity and, all these things is so important to be very cognizant of the things that you're saying and how you're showing up in spaces and in relationships, and ensuring that you're showing up in the best possible way that you can. Okay? So yeah, this is the end of the video. If you have any other tips that you've had or you've used to differentiate between vulnerability and oversharing, please share them in the comment section. And if there's any ones that really stood out to you that you will be practicing, let me know as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, comment, and yeah, stay on this channel, subscribe. Okay, see you on the next one. Bye.